Hey folks, welcome to your own YouTube channel. Let's dive right into tonight's story without any delay. Hi, I'm Abbas from Kazvin. This tale happened back in my grandfather's time, in the village of Kamshlu. So, I'll continue telling it from the main character's perspective. Yeah, I was about 35 years old with twin boys. Like all us villagers, I was hardworking and full of grit, but I had one nasty habit tagging along. My over-the-top stinginess. I mean, I figured if I ate my fill of bread at the table, my whole fortune would go down the drain. I scraped by through farming. As you know, farming's a tough, back-breaking grind. On top of that, I had no brother to lend a hand, and my dad was long gone. Hiring help meant shelling out cash, which was like pulling teeth for me. Like most folks in the village, I grew wheat, barley, and alfalfa. The first two were for people, the last for our cows. Though, munching on alfalfa with vinegar, man, that hit the spot. It didn't even count as real food anymore. And now, the start of the incident. It was summer, and I was swamped. One night, it was my turn to irrigate the field. I grabbed my shovel and lantern, hopped on my donkey, and headed out. My land was in a plain far from the village, but it was lush and water-rich as can be. That's why the villagers believed creatures lived in that plain, hidden in the grasslands, beings you couldn't call animals or humans. But I didn't buy into that nonsense. I thought it was just jealous folks spreading rumors to drive down the land's value. Anyway, as soon as the donkey and I entered the plain, a strange dread crept into my heart. It felt like I wasn't alone, like something was brewing. When I reached the field, I saw the moonlight was plenty bright. No need for the lantern. So I quickly snuffed it out to save on oil. Then I got busy with the shovel, prepping the water's path. Moments later, the water came strolling in, all graceful and slow, spilling into the field. I pretty much had nothing left to do, so I plopped down in a corner to wait it out and get back to my life. A bit of time passed while I sat there, when a weird, mysterious sound hit my ears. At first, I thought it was a jackal lurking in the grass, but soon it got clearer. Whatever it was heading my way. I thought to myself, what if this is dangerous? I could end up 6 feet under. So I ditched the shovel and dove into the tall grass. My donkey was grazing peacefully in the middle of the field. Once I was well hidden, I spotted a big wolf dragging a kid by its teeth toward the desert. The kid was letting out these bizarre, otherworldly cries. Sure, I was stingy, but my conscience was burning like wildfire inside me. As the wolf passed, I jumped out, grabbed the shovel, and chased after with all the noise I could make. The wolf struggled a bit and got stuck in the dirt. I slammed the shovel against a rock to make a racket and scare it more. Finally, the wild beast dropped the child on the ground and bolted. I rushed over to the kid. The second I saw its appearance, I froze in my tracks. It looked almost like us, but no nose, and its hands are like chicken feet. I smacked my forehead hard and said, "What on earth are you, you poor thing? They must have abandoned you for this." "But I won't abandon you. I gotta take you back to the village." As I bent down to pick up the kid, I heard this rough, rapid breathing right behind me. I spun around, and to my utter shock, there stood a man and woman in long robes. The woman saw the kid's bloody hands and burst into tears. I was totally thrown off and said, "Are you this kid's parents? At least say something. I nearly had a heart attack. You didn't pop up behind a guy like that, and don't even warn him he'd get scared." The woman ignored my words, scooped up the kid, and hugged it. Before I could say a thing to her husband, poof, they were gone. No trace of the woman or kid either. They vanished as silently as they'd appeared. I was terrified out of my mind. I'd never seen a wolf drag off a child like that, or a kid with hands like chicken feet. And the way the parents came and went, it hit me. They weren't human. I was so dazed and confused that I forgot all about the irrigation time, hopped on my donkey, and rode off. Thank God the donkey knew the way home. When I opened my eyes, we were at the front door. The pale sky overhead signaled dawn. I dragged myself inside, said my prayers, and passed out from exhaustion. That day, in my dreams, 2 strapping young men came to me. I was back at the field, busy irrigating. When I spotted them, I lost my bearings completely. One greeted me warmly and said, "Muslim, don't fear us. We got a message from our elder for you. We're from the Jinn tribe, but no harm will come to you from us. Just return to your field at sunset." Yeah, that's the dream I had. When I woke up, thinking about last night's events, I sank into deep thought. When I couldn't make sense of it, I told myself, even if that kid was a Jinn, I didn't do anything wrong. I tried to forget the whole thing and stayed away from the field until my next irrigation turn. A few days passed. One of my cows hurt its legs and wouldn't leave the barn. I had to cut some alfalfa from the field for it. When I got there and saw those tall, green stalks, my spirits soared. I tied the donkey to a tree by the edge and attacked the rows of alfalfa with my sickle, plowing ahead like a tractor. Not long into it, I felt like someone was crashing my alone time. I glanced back and saw 2 figures behind me. I was startled, but I didn't want to snap at them and give them an excuse. I took a deep breath and said, "You lost? I haven't seen you around here." No answer. I turned back to my work when 4 hooves crossed my view. I figured they were the donkeys, but right then, as if the donkey wanted to warn me of danger, it started braying like crazy. That's when I remembered I'd tied it up elsewhere. My body went limp with fear, and the sickle dropped to the ground. A voice from behind said, "Afraid of us? Don't we look familiar from somewhere?" With my back still to them, I shook my head. It continued, "You ignored our words, but like we said, no harm from us. We're here to deliver a message from our tribe's chief to you." Hearing that eased me a bit, and I pulled myself together. Still, humans with donkey feet? That wasn't something I could just roll with. Shaking like a leaf, I turned around and said, "What do you want from me? If I don't want to meet your tribe chief, who do I gotta see instead?" One of the men smirked and said, "You saved one of us. Why deny yourself the reward? We know how much you love worldly wealth." As soon as he said that, I stammered, "You mean the Jinn tribe chief is going to give me money?" The man went on, "Be by the spring of that little river at sunset tomorrow." The little river was near those fields, used by folks for irrigation. I could tell they were about to leave, but in the final moments, the second one, who'd been quiet, spoke up. "A piece of advice. Don't ask the elder for riches and gold. Ask him to grant you control over your own wealth." I didn't get what he meant. A wind picked up, and the men drifted away with it, like autumn leaves on the breeze. The next evening, I headed to the spring. I brought the donkey too, figuring it'd make hauling the Jinn treasure easy. When I arrived, no one was there. I waited a bit. When nobody showed, I thought, what if this whole thing was just my imagination? I was about to head back to the village when I saw a bizarre creature staring at me. It was so horrifying that the donkey let out a wild bray and bolted. The thing had a human-like body, Buta snake-shaped head. It raised its hand and said, "Don't fear, human. I'm the one you came to meet." I mustered all my courage. I wanted to say, "Show me where the treasure is," but suddenly a storm raged inside me. Stuttering, I said, "I want you to give me control over my own wealth." The snake face looked surprised, tilted its head, and said, "I didn't expect that. Something else was on your mind." Seeing its shock, I doubled down on my request. "I don't want riches, just give me this." The snake face calmed down and said, "Son of Adam, your wish is my wife's dowry. Be here at sunset tomorrow. I need to convince her." With that, it turned into an ordinary snake and slithered away. The next evening, I went back to the spring. This time, two snake-like figures appeared. The snake face said, "This is my wife. In exchange for your wish, we'll take control over the wealth of one of your relatives." I agreed. In an instant, there was no sign of the snake-faced man or woman. I headed home empty-handed. On the way, I thought, what a fool I am. Who do you think you are with these fancy ideas? I should have just taken a few coins. But I had no idea that if the whole world were mine and I couldn't use it, I'd still be a beggar. The next day, I decided to hire workers for my chores. It wasn't long before I advanced in farming and bought more land. That's when I truly understood having wealth is one thing, but having control over it, that's everything. And there you have it, folks. That's the end of tonight's tale. I gotta say, thanks a bunch for sticking around and listening to this old village yarn with me. Stories like these remind us life's full of surprises, right? If you enjoyed it and it gave you a chill or a chuckle, do me a favor and smash that like button. It really helps the channel grow and brings more spooky stories your way. Don't forget to subscribe and hit the bell so you never miss out. Appreciate you all. In shadows where the jinn may roam, a miser hoards she's gold alone, but wealth without the heart to spend is beggar's dust upon the wind.